All right, let's get some quick reaction now to our breaking news story. Alison Tilley, attorney and coordinator at Judges Matter, joins us now to talk about the developments around Judge President Selby Mbenenge. Alison, I hope it's third time lucky and you're able to hear me now. Perhaps we'll start with just your reaction to the significant development.
Well, I think it's to be expected. The suspension of the Judge President is something that we would have expected some time ago. He was on special leave, but now that the JSC has recommended suspension, it's the one part of the interdict that is going to mean that part of the application that the Judge President did will fail. So the President will be allowed to suspend him in terms of the court order. He's been successful in the rest of the application that he's done, and so those parts of the application will succeed.
And in terms of the process now, for someone who's not familiar with it, for the National Assembly, for the JSC, what does it mean?
Well, it means that the National Assembly and the Speaker are now in a position where they're not going to be able to proceed with the parliamentary process that you normally have when you have somebody who's been found guilty of gross misconduct. A finding like that goes to the National Assembly for a vote. And the National Assembly is now interdicted from doing that part of the process, and the JSC can't proceed with its decision either until a court has looked at the review application that the Judge President has brought, and that's really going to be the next step, is where a court will have to look at his application and the issues that he's raised and decide whether or not his review application is successful or not.
And when we take a step back, to where this particular process has led us to, for example, from the hearing to that misconduct finding and then the gross misconduct finding, perhaps we then take our viewers back to those moments because they've been key to where we find ourselves right now.
It has been a long process, and I think the thing that has been perhaps unusual about it, not so common, is that when the finding was made of misconduct and it went to the small JSC decided that the case against the Judge President, which involved a relationship with a junior staffer in the Eastern Cape, and one where she said she was subject to unwanted advances in the office over a long period of time, the JSC decided that it was going to be finding it as gross misconduct rather than ordinary misconduct, which is what the tribunal said. And I think that's going to be the basis of his review. We know that from the papers that he's really arguing that it should be considered as misconduct, ordinary misconduct, and that it shouldn't be dealt with as a breach of the judicial code, but rather dealt with as a sexual harassment issue, in which case he says no sexual harassment was proved.
And Alison, when one looks at the processes, right, of the JSC, is that if ever there is a gross misconduct finding, that puts, it puts a judge in the array of impeachment, doesn't it?
Yes, once you have a finding of gross misconduct, the matter must then be referred to Parliament, to the National Assembly, and we would then expect the committee that deals with these things to receive that referral, and then they would hand it on to the National Assembly, who we've seen in a couple of previous votes, who would then deal with it as a matter to be voted on. And we've seen that with Judge Tshwane and Judge Matata. So this is something where we've at least got a bit of precedent now, and we know how that how that process will unfold once the matter goes to the National Assembly. And of course, if the review application is successful, then the matter will not be referred anywhere. It will die a death, and the Parliament will not be asked to vote on it.
And regardless of what happens, though, Alison, with the review process, as you say, it could, as far as the process goes, die that slow death. But from what we would have heard and how significant the developments in this matter have been, it will likely not be forgotten by many people who are watching, those hearings blow by blow.
I think it's created a stir beyond the legal profession. I think the legal profession has certainly had to sit up and take notice. And I think, there are a number of the institutions in the legal profession, like the Legal Practice Council, who are really taking this up and dealing with it proactively. We have the Chief Justice's policy on sexual harassment. But I think it's perhaps more than just the legal profession. People, in other walks of life, really thinking about what it means to have a sexual harassment policy, what it means to be reassuring to younger people, perhaps in the profession, that this is not something that is routine and just an open secret. It's something that really is concerning and has to be stopped. And I think that's really to be welcomed.
And just then, when you look at just the changes that it has to effect, and especially because, as you speak about the legal profession, for example, when one thinks about some of the interviews of the candidates for different positions within the judiciary, this issue of sexual harassment has come up so many times, and it's one that is clearly now needing to be taken seriously. So I suppose it also, in its landmark of way, does change how things are done going forward.
Well, I hope it will, and I hope it will allow people to, think that their concerns and what they've experienced is real and it is true, and that there are people who will listen to them, if they raise those concerns. And I hope that's certainly a message that is being heard.
Certainly. And Alison, as you say, a long road to get to this point, and I suppose another long road for this review. And let's see then what happens in terms of the process. But I appreciate your time and for making sense of the process for us. It's a landmark and significant development in this matter that has been dragging on for quite some time. Alison Tilley, attorney and coordinator at Judges Matter, speaking to us about the developments around Judge President Selby Mbenenge. He's been able to secure a High Court interdict. And also speaking about court matters, right, there is another development in the court. You'd remember just earlier on this week, around Wednesday, we're in conversation with the Democratic Alliance in Tshwane, and they had taken the matter of the suspension of the city manager to court, and that is Joe Matla, and quite unhappy with the fact that he had been suspended, and they were raising all kinds of issues about that council meeting that then took this particular resolution, even going as far as speaking about the composition thereof, and also saying that they were ignored around some of the processes. So now the court has set aside the decision to suspend the Tshwane city manager, Johan Matla, and the court then speaking about, the importance of the law as far as this matter is concerned. So then we'll get you some reaction here on the channel about this story, because it's quite the big one, especially when it comes to just the workings in the city. And you would have listened to the DA, for example, arguing that for them, the process also speaks volumes here, and making all kinds of allegations thereof. And then those who were for this move were actually saying that they've got concerns about the city manager and leveling a number of allegations against him. So we're going to then bring you more developments on this particular breaking news story.